And welcome to Sasquatch Says Podcast. I am your host, Dan Wetstein. Unfortunately, my co-host is not here with me again today. I unfortunately, again, don't have any update for you exactly where she is or where she's coming. I apologize. And if Callie sees this again, no hard feelings. You're good. We completely understand. You got a life. You got a full-time job. You owe us nothing. I just want to say I am sorry to the people watching. If you are looking forward to Callie, when I do put her name in the description and she doesn't show, I apologize. That is not the intention. But moving forward, just to avoid any confusion or any hard feelings from anyone, I am no longer going to be putting Callie in the description. We are just going to play it by ear. If she shows up, that is absolutely great. We love having her here. Her insight is invaluable, but we're just going to keep posting on and moving forward and doing what we can here with me being the one-man band that I am. Let's go ahead and push through and let's talk hockey. Nuggets wow. It's been one of those days, guys, one of those days. Avalanche started off after we last talked last Friday, came back, whooped the Wild. They came and had a 6-3 victory, had 6 goals by 6 different players. A lot of people are asking, is that the recipe for success? That was their recipe for success last season, and I do believe that will be their recipe for success going forward. It wasn't just the fact that the Avalanche have the best superstars in the league, one of the best trios, if not the best trio of wingers, center, and defensemen possibly ever in the entire league. It is their depth that was what brought them to the promised land a season ago, and it will be what brings them back as long as that depth comes through. And they did against the Wild. Unfortunately, they didn't really for the rest of the week, but at least for one game, we got to see the recipe for success. And this is the blueprint of the Avalanche being a successful and dominant team. This is how they made Philip Grubauer a Vezina Trophy finalist. This is how they made Darcy Kemper a Stanley Cup championship goalie, was because it was a team effort. Nobody was ever left on an island. Nobody was ever expected to do things by themselves. It was always a group and team effort, which is essential in a team sport, obviously. So those of you thinking that was what the Avs need to do to win consistently, you are correct. You have won whatever you decide you want to win, because I'm not giving you anything. But if you want to give yourself something, more the power to you. 6 goals, 6 players. Not necessarily does it have to be that every night, but the fact that they have multiple people scoring, they got defenders scoring, that is their recipe for success. That is how the Avalanche have such a have the number 1 power play in the league, but also it's why they have the worst penalty kill, is because the team effort seems to be there on offense, but not so much on defense. And one player that's really starting to take some wrath is Alex Newhook. He's been put on the second line. He's the second center. Essentially, he is the first man off the bench to replace Nathan MacKinnon whenever MacKinnon needs a breather. He has taken the role of a Nazem Kadri. He is also the only Avalanche currently with a negative plus minus. We've told you before, that is not an end-all be-all stat. That is not something you have to worry about always. Hello, Nika. Appreciate you coming in. Let's talk a little hockey today. And later, you'll get to talk basketball if you come back with us at 6 o'clock with Santiago for Nug Life. So we got a double dip for you tonight if you want to be just smacked upside the head with all kinds of sports today. We're talking them all. Next up, we have only 3 bench players that's wow. I keep going to the sorry guys. This is what I keep doing. I got to minimize this. I keep letting my Nug life get in the way here. All right. Now that's out of the way. I'll stop talking about Nuggets until later. Big Val is really picking up a lot of the slack, especially the slack from Gabriel Landeskog. As we found out today, Gabriel Landeskog, the captain of this team, is going to be out for at least 12 weeks. So we're going to see Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, Boxing Day, Kwanzaa, Christmas. I mean, all of the holidays, even New Year's is going to be passed by the time we get to see Gabe Landeskog back on the ice. essentially the timetable is kind of funny. Is around January 2nd, which is also the wife's birthday, and the niece and the great niece's birthday. We have two birthdays on that day, so I guess maybe the Avalanche can give them a present they don't really care about because they don't watch hockey, but it'll be good for me is that Gabe Landeskog might finally be back out on the ice when January hits and 23 rolls around, but not before then. We will not be seeing the captain the remainder of this year. We will not see him again until next year. What is this? I don't know what that is. It looks like somebody's advertisement, but I am not going to put it live. So we will keep moving on. Big Val, like I said, is making up a lot of what Landeskog has essentially not been there to give, I guess is the best way to put it. So what has changed that has his offensive game reaching a new level? Big Val is no longer just happy to be on the ice. Last year, when he was traded over to the Avalanche from a bad team to one that ended up going up and winning a championship, he was just happy to be on the ice with the likes of Nathan MacKinnon and company. He was just happy to be out there and just facilitating. This year, he wants to be seen. He signed that big contract. Everybody was wondering, oh, is he going to be worth it? Should they have re-signed him instead of Nazem Kadri? Well, at this point, he is the second leading scorer in points. He is the leading goal scorer for this team. The only person that has more points than Valerie Nichushkin is Mikko Rantanen, the Moose, who is on another level. We're going to talk about him more later. But the offense coming from Val is going to take this team to another level, especially once Gabe comes back and the Cap is able to take over this team and really lead it the way that he does so deftly. Valerie Nichushkin is going to be an indispensable part of this team. And remember, people, he is locked up for the next 7 years. Nathan MacKinnon is locked up for the next 7 years. Cale Makar is going to be locked up. Bowen Byram, who has had a hot start, is going to be locked up very soon. I mean, you just go down the line. Every single important piece of the puzzle for this team is locked up for years to come. So that is why there's a speak of dynasty, despite the fact that this team has only started 2-1 so far this season. They have a lot of new faces. I don't want to try and make the cross sport analogy to the Broncos, but there's a lot of new faces. It's not quite to the degree that the Broncos are, where it's new everywhere from the top down. Here, it's just new faces on the ice, so I don't believe it's going to be, and it hasn't been nearly as ugly as the Denver Broncos have been with their new faces in all the new places. So the Avalanche are not going to be nearly that difficult to watch, even though these last couple of games have been. They are going to get right. It's going to happen a lot sooner than later, and this team is going to dominate. They are the best team in the league, regardless of the fact that there's some other teams that have a better record than them currently. Tonight, they're going to face one of those teams, and we're going to talk a lot about them later. But when they face the Golden Knights, this is going to be a true test. Can they bounce back from a couple of ugly losses? We're going to have to see that tonight. But the Avalanche beating the Wild, that was one that I predicted, and the score I got perfectly correct. This one was 6-3. The rest of the week, as you'll see, I was terrible at predicting. So take what I say with a grain of salt if you want to, but more often than not, I am right in these situations. And speaking of that, Avalanche in the very next game after this Wild win, where everything seemed to click except the goaltending, which really has not clicked on a level you would want to at this point from either goalie, either Francouz or Georgiev. But with Big Val and company out there, you don't have to have a great goalie. I said this a million times. I'm probably sure you're tired of hearing me say it, but the case in point is what it is. They don't need a great goalie. They just need an average goalie. Unfortunately, they haven't gotten average play from the goalies yet. And I think it's a big reason of what they're having some problems with. And that started in the Jets game. was it really what the Jets did in the first and third that completely shut down the Avalanche offense? Because they scored all three of their goals in the second period, but did absolutely nothing. Looked absolutely abysmal in the first period. And the third period, they just looked like they wanted to get out of there, even though they were at home. This Jets game was really, really weird to me, as in I just did not understand what happened. They were at home. It was their first game at home after a couple of really long road games, a big win against the Wild, and then they just, I don't know, they just peed the bed. Really is what it boils down to me when it comes to these Jets. They had no life in that first period. There was absolutely nothing that they had to give, and I felt bad for all of the Avalanche faithful that were sitting in Ball Arena watching that effort, because that was a subpar effort and it didn't even honor the money. Their effort didn't honor the money that those humans spent to watch these other humans skate around on the ice. It was quite abysmal. I mean, they gave them a show in the second period, sorry, where they scored 3 goals, got the game tied, but then went into the third period and the wheels fell off again. They looked lethargic. They weren't squeezing down and taking away space. They weren't uh, really defending the blue line at all. The Jets were just flying up and down the ice at will. There wasn't really much of any resistance in that third period. It was really kind of gross. But the biggest thing was people looking at Evan Rodriguez at this point. The man has not scored a goal. He's got, I think, 1 assist. Uh, Him and Newhook are really kind of in the same headspace. I believe that they're both trying to do too much. Evan is coming from some pretty poor teams. I mean, the Penguins were all right. I don't want to say they were bad, but the Sabres, we all know about the Buffalo Sabres, so we won't go too far into that. But he has all the talent in the world, the speed on the ice, the puck handling's pretty good. It's not great, but he has a lot of uh, bad tendencies, I guess you'll say, some bad habits that he picked up from some bad teams, where he's afraid to take that risk. He's afraid to, if the first look's not there, just pass it off instead of trying to make something happen. I do believe he's probably the biggest worry. Alex Newhook doesn't worry me. The man has so much talent, so much potential. It's just a matter of him breaking that dam. Once he breaks the dam, it's going to be impossible to stop the flood that comes once he starts racking up goals and assists. He is going to absolutely take over that Nazem Kadri role and do well, if not even better than Kadri did, with a much higher ceiling and much more time, as he is younger, much younger than Nazem Kadri. So just be patient with the kid. I want to see him stay on that second line. There's a lot of people that are wanting to bump him down. I say don't. I say leave him where he is, keep him on the second line, and let him work through it. There are going to be some growing pains, but sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and deal with some short-term pain to get the long-term gain. And that's what the Avalanche I believe, are doing and are going to do. I don't believe Bednar has ever shown that he is in any way a person that will shrink from the big decisions or wafer or waffle, however you want to say it, on whether or not the kid should stay or be there. He's not going to flinch just because some people write some mean things in a tweet or a story somewhere. He's just not that. He's not built that way. He's going to stick to his guns. If he believes that that's where a player belongs, if that's the line he believes they belong on, he will push through the pains. I mean, you've seen it with Makar and Bo Byram, where they've had, Makar not so much. He had a few struggles, I think, for like the first week or so while he was getting acclimated. But after that, he's just taken over and been Makar. But I think Bo is a good case study for y'all to watch, is that he got stuck on a line. People thought at the time it was when he was on the third line. And people were like, oh, I don't think he's ready for that yet. Put him back on the fourth line and just, let him go out there for garbage time and stuff like that. And Bednar was like, no, the kid needs to learn. He's feet to the fire. And at the third line, that's not even really feet to the fire. It was just, I'm sure what he was thinking is like, really, y'all, third line, and that's too much. If he can't handle the third line, then how are we going to have aspirations for him to being line one, right? So the fact that he was able to stick with him and they just gradually moved him up. Same thing with Newhook, started out on fourth line, up to the third line, and was a steady presence on that third line last year. And then this year he gets moved up to the second line when Kadri moves on. And so he's really following that same type of pattern that Bednar likes to use with the young guys. He doesn't want to throw them in there with the McKinnons and Landeskog's and Mikos and guys like that, where they'll essentially get ate alive by the other team's top lines. But, you know, obviously there's the exceptional cases like Cale Makar. But again, we just went over that. He's a unicorn, and he just needs to be left in his own little lane that he's off by himself, because that he is the only one in that lane. People need to stop trying to compare him. Excuse me. So should Evan Rodriguez be moved down? This is the one. Evan, I do believe, needs to be put down. I don't think too far. Like, he doesn't need to go all the way down to the third or fourth line. I think knocking him down to the second line, letting him play with Newhook, letting those two guys try and find a little 1-2 game together could be good. But I don't know. Other than that, there's not really much hope here for me when it comes to Evan Rodriguez. Again, all the talent that you want at his position, but there's just not enough consistency, and he hasn't shown it. So until he shows it, I have to doubt him. But I'm crossing fingers. I don't want him to fail. Obviously, this is my favorite team. This is all of our favorite teams. If you're here watching and talking about him, you obviously got something invested in this. You don't want to see the kid fail. But you wonder if maybe, you know, Sakic can't be magic on every move he makes. Not every single move is going to pan out to be perfect. So there's got to be a guy here or there that they miss on. And maybe Evan's the guy. I'm hoping not. I would love to see the kid, you know, take that step, show that you know, the faith that the franchise had in him and signing him, yes, late, whatever the case may be. Maybe that's the case. You know, he's just not quite acclimated to playing with these guys yet. But I mean, at this point, you got to show something. And I really haven't seen anything from him other than he can skate fast and he can handle the puck all right. And he's a little physical. That's about all I got for him at this point. But another guy that we mentioned earlier that is taking another step forward and is being great, a little bit, appreciate you, is Mikko Rantanen. As I just stated earlier, he is the team leader in points. He is second in goals, first in assists. He has 10 total now, 4 goals, 6 assists. The man has been absolutely beastly. Him and Nichushkin can be. I don't want to say are yet. I still need to see this happen more consistently and over a full season. But they could be part of a triple line. And I will explain that as in they could have 3 guys on the same line score 100 points. That's insane. And with Makar on that line, there's a chance they could have 4 out of 5 guys score 100 points. That's the insanity of this Avalanche team. They could have one line with as many as 400-point scores. That just doesn't happen. Honestly, I can't even think of. I'm gonna have to do some research. I don't want to talk out of my booty hole or anything, but I don't believe there has ever been a team with 400-point scores on a single line. I'm gonna have to double check that. Don't quote me. I'm gonna check it and I'm gonna get back to y'all on Twitter later today. That just popped in my mind. I have to find out if that's ever been a thing. If any of you know, please let me know. I would love to know. Let me know down in the comments, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Everything's down in the description. Our Twitter's right there @ the answer is 42. Drop us a line. If you know, let us know. But I'm gonna do some research after the show, and I will find out before the end of the night and let you all know if there has ever been a 400-point scorer line in NHL history. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but if y'all can, let me know, because that would be insane to see. And we just might see that here in Denver. Also, Avalanche dropping their second home game to the Kraken was, I believe, soul-crushing for so many in Ball Arena. I don't think it should be because I warned you all. This was the one game I warned all of you. With Berkey, with Grew, those guys are going to have a vendetta. They're going to have a point to prove. They're going to have, whatever other analogy you want to use for that. They were going to have a bone to pick, and they did. Grew came out and had the best game I have seen him have since he left Denver. That is the best game I have seen him play since he left Denver. He might have had some other ones I didn't see. I'm not saying that it's absolute, but as far as I've seen with these two eyes, that is the best game Grew has played since he left Denver. And you could tell he wanted it. Him and Berkey. Berkey really wanted to show the team why he should have been re-signed than the other guys. I don't believe it. I love Berkey. I wish him all the best. Same thing with the fact that I love Kadri. I wish him all the best, but you're not an Avalanche anymore, so I can't wish you the absolute best. The Stanley Cup has to stay in Denver. I hope you all have absolute fun wherever you are, but I will not condone you ever winning another Stanley Cup as long as you're not in Denver. Sorry, we just can't do that here. That's the loyalty. But yes, Moose taking the next step, Nichushkin taking the next step. Newhook and Evan really need to. I think if they do, they can really. Those two taking a step up would really go a long way to filling at least part of the hole left by Landeskog. You can't fill the hole of the captain. You can't fill it completely. But I think those two guys taking the next step would make a major difference and really help to fill that hole. But the Kraken beating the Avalanche 3-2, Winnipeg winning in overtime 4-3. Those two really hurt. But there are some silver linings. And I know that's weird coming from me. I'm not usually the guy that brings silver linings. But they fought back in both these games, even despite absolute ugly starts, both offensively and defensively, and the fact that they still have the worst penalty kill in the league doesn't change the fact that they were still able to bring it back, tie it, show fight, show that they have some resolve. And even though they didn't quite pull it off, the fact they were able to get a point from Minnesota, almost were able to snatch a point from Seattle, even though they were both very, very winnable games, and the Avs should have won those games. The fact they showed the grit when in previous seasons, not so much last year, but the year before, they would have just wilted. But there's something that the great one, Wayne Gretzky, said in the season opener for the Avalanche when they were talking about the difference between a Darcy Kemper and Alexander Georgiev or Pavel Francouz, is that when they've given up 4 goals, they're not going to give up 5. When the game's tied at 5, they're not going to give up the 6th goal. So far, Georgiev and Francouz have not shown they have that resolve to stop the bleeding. These 2 games showed both have a vulnerability. Now, whether or not the defense is able to get to another level, because yes, they are facing an inordinate amount of shots as compared to not only their opponents, but to what Kemper and Grew were seeing in the previous 2 seasons. Obviously, when you lose a Kadri, a Burakovsky, etc., you're going to take a bit of a hit defensively. But when you were able to retain a Makar, a Byram, a McDermott, etc., it should not be that big of a difference. You should not be going from a team that was allowing around 20 shots on goal per game last year to one that is now averaging over 30 shots on goal per game. That is unacceptable. No goaltender should be under siege like that on a good team. Normally, when a goaltender is under siege like that, it is because they are on a bad team, and this is not a bad team. So look for that to get back more to the mean. I don't see how Kale and company can allow that to keep happening. They have way too much pride and way too much talent to allow that. So look for that average to start eking more towards the 20 and away from the 30. And I believe that will start tonight because I do believe the Avalanche will have a fire in their belly, even though this is on the second half of a back to back, as they face the Golden Knights tonight. The Avs, as I stated earlier, are first in the power play percentage, but are dead last in penalty kill. Can they continue the power play while fixing the penalty kill in this game? It's possible. I don't want to say it's guaranteed because, again, this is the Vegas Golden Knights who still have Ben Reeves. That man is insane. I really want to see McDermott take him on because I believe McDermott just might be the nastiest defenseman in the NHL and the toughest. I mean, the dude just took out Oleksiak. Dude was 2 inches taller than him. McDermott is doing his thing. He is playing his role. He is the goon, as we told you he would be, and he is out here murking folk. So, although I don't really root for fighting, I am a bit liberal, so I'm not always, the violence is the answer kind of guy, but I do have plenty of anger in me and some resentment. So, hey, beat on him a little bit. Show the rest of the NHL that this is not just a soft team that you can go in and bully, that the Avalanche do got some goons and they will punch you in your mouth and you're going to feel it. So if that can happen, yes. The power play can be better because I believe that McDermott and I will go back to Evan Rodriguez. One of his underlying things I've noticed is that he seems to be a bit of a pest. So I think him and Manson do a really good job of getting under other people's skins. So I believe if they can do that, they can get the Golden Knight into some penalty issues. And this defense, again, having a fire in their belly after 2 straight home losses to inferior opponents. I do see them having some anger, and tonight could be some fireworks between Reeves and McDermott, and I want to see it. I want to see it in the worst way. I want to see if McDermott can punk him and finally maybe give a little bit of extra oomph to the rivalry, that it's not just, White Cloud and Reeves bodying people and sunning them all over the place, that the Avalanche can get you back too. So how did the Avs fix defensive woes against the 6th best offense so far and the 4-1 Golden Knights? Is they have to pinch down. They have to fight and they have to want it more. There's been way too many times that I have seen defensemen just lollygagging around in the neutral zone. And that is unacceptable and cannot happen against this Golden Knights team because they are on the level of the Avalanche. Maybe not quite the same level, but they're just right there, the notch below when it comes to full talent. But they have the demeanor, the size, and the aggression to even the playing ice with the Avalanche. So the Avalanche are going to have to come out nasty. They're going to have to come out strong, and they're going to have to come out fast if they want to win this one in Vegas. So what are our predictions? Tonight, it's going to be a close one. I know I've picked the Avalanche to win every game, but this is one I feel they have to have it. It's not so much I feel like they're just going to dominate, but their need and want to at this point. This is as crucial of a first 2 weeks game as you can get, I believe. It's a real good measuring stick. How well do they bounce back from some bad losses, especially at home, on the road, in a back-to-back? Are they able to muster up enough energy and aggression to take out another very, very good team in their barn? And I do believe that they can. I believe the Avalanche are able to squeak this one out and flip the score from last night and win this one 3-2 with Georgiev in goal and doing some really nice things. Then, after that, coming up on Monday, there is the Avalanche and Rangers game that is going to be a bit of a doozy. The Rangers are ranked 17th or higher in every single stat category outside of the one, which was shot percentage, is the one that they were ranked 17th. Everything else, they are ranked no lower than 12th. This Rangers team seems to have been built solidly. Their goaltending is on point. Their defense is pretty suffocating. They're a very physical team. They love to slam you up in the boards. They are not afraid of the penalty kill, as they have a top 5 penalty kill and power play. So they have absolutely no fear of anywhere on the ice, and they will hit you however they want, whenever they want, wherever they want, and however they want. That's going to be a fun game, and this is going to be, I believe, one of those, I don't want to say letdowns because this is a very, very good team, but it's one of those that could get ugly for the Avalanche. But Georgiev being there against his old team, I think adds a little bit of a dynamic the same way that it did for the Kraken against the Avalanche at home. So can Georgiev slow his former team down? I believe so. Now, there's a double-edged sword to this. You have Georgiev, who is very knowledgeable of this team, obviously outside of the new faces, which aren't many in New York. The Rangers have pretty much the same squad as they did last year, outside of a few little small changes to their depth. But the first couple of lines are the exact same as they were last year. But Georgiev knows them. He knows them very well, but they know Georgiev. That's the double edge to the sword. They may know some things that are his weakness, and they might exploit it, or Georgiev could exploit theirs. And I do believe that when all is said and done, the Avalanche can prevail, but it is going to take the best defensive effort of the season to this point and the best goaltending to this point to beat the Rangers. And with Georgiev having a chip on his shoulder and getting more comfortable with this defense, how it works, what gets through, what doesn't get through, etc., I do believe he's able to hold on. The Avalanche are able to beat the Rangers and steal that one 2-0. I do believe Georgiev could actually pull off the shutout. I know this is a bold take. I'm probably going to pay for it, but it just seems like Alexander has had moments, and I believe he's going to put it all together against his old squad and just be a stonewall. But the Rangers are too good for the Avalanche to just absolutely mollywop them. And so, again, the score 2-0. Might end up being 2-1, but I'm going to go with the shutout just because I want to see Georgiev do that to his old squad. Then finally, we have the Avalanche and the Devils, the New Jersey Devils. Could this be another trap game on the front end of a back-to-back? This is where I get scared. Yes, this is where I got scared last week, and I told y'all to worry about the Kraken, and it turned out that my worries were even more real than I thought they were, and the Kraken were able to end up beating the Avalanche at home. And this one's on the road. Okay, so this is even worse. This isn't even at home where they got the home ice advantage and the home crowd to pump them up. This is on the road in New Jersey. So yes, very much so a potential trap game. Is it helpful to get the East Coast swing? As some people have stated, I don't know. That's a really loaded question, and it's hard to really give an answer at this point. I mean, yes, you would like to get something like this out of the way, because if you're not noticing the pattern here, the Avalanche are going to New York and the East Coast next week, and they're going to be on the East Coast the entire week. So they got, as you notice, the previews after Vegas, they got the Rangers, they got the Devils, and then they have the Islanders next Saturday. We will preview that game next Saturday on Sasquatch Says. But the New York trip, it is going to be grueling. It is going to be absolutely taxing. And the New Jersey Devils are a little bit better than I think people even give them credit for. And I don't think anybody's really saying they're bad, but I think they're even better than what they're given credit for. Their goaltending is on point. They can score goals with the best of them. They're ranked in the top half of the league in just about every major category. Again, it's early, small sample size. Take it for what you will. But again, this being on the road, Avalanche on the front end of a back-to-back after a long week of hotel rooms, because they're not coming back to Denver in between games. That just doesn't make any sense. They're going to stay there, stay acclimated to the East Coast, and essentially just live in hotel rooms for a week. I believe that starts taking its toll in this game unless the Avalanche somehow are able to dig deeper than deep and really, really pull it out from the depths of their soul. This game could get ugly. It could get ugly quick. The Avalanche are always going to have fight. I don't think they're ever going to really get blown out. But this is one of those that it could be a lot like that Wild game where or the Jets game, I'm sorry, where the first period's ugly. Then they find a second wind in the second period, and they might do a little bit of a flurry at the beginning of the third period, but then just absolutely fall off a cliff and things just die after that. This is going to be the first. This will be the first game that I've sat here and said, I believe the Avalanche are going to lose. And this is the game where, again, it's that trap game in between two other really good opponents, the Rangers and the Islanders, front end of a back-to-back, long week on the East Coast. Just everything, I think, culminates to the Devils being able to pull this off and beating the Avalanche 4-2. I hate saying that. God, that hurts my soul. But I got to be honest with you guys. Yeah, I really put on the blue and maroon tinted glasses last week when I talked to y'all, and I predicted the Avalanche sweeping the week. I can't do that again this week. I got to go with my gut like I should have last week. I should have called the Kraken game as a loss. I really felt like it was going to be, but I just didn't want to admit that the Kraken with Grew and Berkey and them would be able to beat the Avalanche on their home ice, but they did. So the fact that was able to happen, it's not far-fetched to believe that the Avalanche can lose on somebody else's ice on the front end of a back-to-back in the same type of situation and scenario just 7 days later. So I have to keep it real. I have to stay with it as real as possible. But those are my predictions. Those are my breakdowns, my previews, my reviews, all of that for the week 1 and week 2. Please let me know what you all think. I love having these discussions with y'all. And I know a lot of people have had some worries and contemplation. If y'all really go and look at my Twitter, look at my interactions, I promise you guys, I'm not a scary dude. Just come at me respectfully. I'll come at you respectfully, and we'll do this thing, and we'll have a lot of fun. And I've been having so much fun, especially with my Twitter followers. Y'all have been absolutely amazing. I love you guys on Facebook, Instagram, etc. as well. Don't get me twisted, but as I've told y'all before, we're at almost 4,500 followers on Twitter. The conversations be real. They be lit. They be fun. Be respectful. It's insane to say that about Twitter, but my community is absolutely awesome. Y'all should join us. Again, right there, @_theanswers42 is our Twitter. All the rest of our links are down in the description. Make sure you click on them, like, subscribe. I appreciate the likes and that from today from you all. We appreciate it. We love y'all. Make sure that y'all come back with us. Again, I'm not sure who, sorry, just got another message in the chat. Y'all ignore those people with those advertisements. I will get them out of there later. But as always, y'all have been amazing. Please continue to come back. Enjoy. I love talking sports with y'all. So make sure, go down in the comments, leave some comments. Let's have some discussions. Go to the Facebook page, go to the Twitters, the Instagrams, all of those good things. I'll have conversations with y'all anywhere and everywhere. This is what I do. This is what I love. So for the Sasquatch Says podcast, I am your host, Dan Wetstein. And for the answer is 42. Don't question the blue.